All right, listen up, recruit. Welcome to this explainer. I'm going to be your veteran guide today, and we're going to walk through exactly how you build true, unbreakable professional mastery right from the grease up. So go ahead, put on your safety glasses, grab a shop rag, and let's get right to work. Let's dive straight into the core truth of our field manual. You see, true expertise, it absolutely isn't about theoretical perfection. It's about getting your hands dirty and confronting actual reality. Out here in the garage, you face the ultimate reality check, right? A machine either works or it doesn't. You can't bluff your way out of a cross-thread cylinder head, and you literally cannot charm a short circuit. True mastery is forged in the grease, the grit, and the raw mechanical reality of the shop floor. Think of this explainer as your step-by-step operational manual. We're going to track the entire life cycle of mastery through 6 phases. First, the humble apprentice. Second, the evolution of the tool set. Third, the diagnostic mindset. Fourth, material resistance. Fifth, achieving flow state. And finally, number 6, lifelong calibration. Okay, phase 1, the humble apprentice phase. This is all about mopping floors and tuning your ears. We always start on the ground floor. When a shop foreman hands a brand new tech a broom and a bucket of degreaser, I promise you, it's not hazing. It's actually about learning the geography and the baseline rhythm of the shop. You're building an essential, real-world professional foundation through humble, daily observation. Because before you can ever diagnose a really subtle engine misfire, you have to completely submerge your ego and just silently observe. If you try to bypass this phase by throwing out unprompted solutions, what the manual calls ego flooding, you are going to fail catastrophically. You'll strip threads, break expensive components, or somehow mysteriously lose every single 10mm socket in your bay. The apprentice who complains about pushing a broom is completely missing the invisible infrastructure of competence. Moving on to phase 2, the evolution of the tool set. This is where we look at knowing the tool versus feeling the torque. Direct contact with your tools is what finally replaces abstract theory with real physical intuition. It's incredible to watch. For a novice, using a wrench requires a massive cognitive load. You're constantly overthinking the basic physics of it. But through deliberate repetition, you build strong neural pathways. And as you progress toward becoming a master technician, that wrench stops being a clunky external object. It actually transitions into a direct, organic extension of your nervous system. You start operating totally subconsciously. It frees up your cognitive bandwidth to the point where you're literally feeling the microscopic yield in the steel right through the handle of your ratchet. Touching the tool builds a deeply physical connection to the work itself. Which brings us to phase 3, the diagnostic mindset, reading the blueprint and hearing the misfire. What's absolutely fascinating here is that masters approach a broken vehicle like a crime scene investigator. Amateurs, they just blindly fire the parts cannon, swapping out expensive parts and hoping for a quick fix. But to build a master's diagnostic mindset, you have to follow 4 rigorous steps to map out the variables. First, isolate the system, so a failure has nowhere to hide. Second, trace the signal flow directly from input to output. Third, establish your baseline against known factory standards. And fourth, listen to the systemic narrative. You have to understand how a failure in one completely unrelated area cascades into another. All right. Phase 4, the resistance of material, stripped bolts, and stubborn ecosystems. In the real world, you are absolutely gonna hit a wall. You'll hit rust, warped metal, stripped threads. This represents the everyday friction we face in any complex profession. Now, an amateur lets a rounded-off bolt completely dictate their emotions. They panic, they get angry, they grab a heavy hammer, and they just escalate the destruction. But the master? The master understands the metallurgical law of mastery. They know that structural resistance isn't a personal insult, it's simply high-fidelity data telling you to adapt your strategy. They step back, they grab the acetylene torch or some penetrating fluid. They treat that friction as a conversational partner. That's how you turn technical errors and stubborn resistance into long-term personal mastery. Next up is phase 5, achieving flow state, the custom jig and Maverick diagnostics. Eventually, the factory manual becomes completely useless to you. You transition away from conscious effort and drop right into a subconscious flow state. This is exactly where a veteran tech mentors you to start breaking the standard rules to invent custom solutions. Think about heating and bending a cheap box wrench just to reach a hidden, impossible fastener. That is not a reckless hack. It's maverick innovation. And it's only made possible by deep, atomic-level technical literacy. When you actually know the rules at that atomic level, you earn the license to break them with absolute precision to get a diagnostic breakthrough. When you hit this ultimate flow state, what the manual calls dimensional intuition, You don't just look at a truck and see body panels and a grill anymore. Your mind's eye effortlessly visualizes the oil pulsing through the hidden galleries, the valves dancing, the electrons racing across the data bus. The boundary between you and the machine just entirely blurs. At this level, physical intuition entirely replaces abstract computer readouts. You are quite literally diagnosing the machine's health through sensory cues like smell, sound, and vibration. Imagine a chaotic, loud Friday afternoon rush in the shop, but you are standing in this eerie pocket of calm. You can instantly differentiate the sweet, syrupy smell of burning coolant from the sharp, acrid bite of gear oil. You can isolate a tiny, irregular acoustic click deep inside a complex engine block. You know that physically feeling the minute vibrational frequencies in a steering column is infinitely more effective than just blindly reading technical data on a screen. You fully entered the machine's loop. Finally, we reach Phase 6, the lifelong tune-up, maintaining your biological calibration. The absolute greatest trap in any profession is believing you finally arrived. Mastery isn't a destination, it is a lifelong biological calibration process. This is especially crucial as incredibly complex electric and high-voltage systems rapidly replace the old mechanical ones. So here are your specific, actionable exercises to survive that shift. Consider this your personal preventative maintenance log. Daily, you must purge your assumptions and clear your mental workspace. Weekly, take the time to physically clean and recalibrate your tooling. Quarterly, deliberately seek out unfamiliar, difficult systems to completely break your comfort zones. And annually, you need to constantly hunt for hidden biases in your diagnostic approach. This is a permanent commitment to the craft. Because here is the grand takeaway. Whether you're coding complex software, building a startup company from scratch, or tuning a massive V8 engine in a grease-stained bay, this unyielding architecture of grit, physical connection, and humility remains exactly the same. You absolutely must survive the humble apprenticeship. You have to integrate your tools until they are literally a part of your body, and you must embrace real-world resistance as your greatest teacher. The tools are laid out. The baseline sound of the shop is set. The friction is waiting for you. It is time to test your own dimensional intuition out in the real world. So tell me, recruit, what are you going to choose to master today?